So I know that the previous sessions have been hilarious, and I don't want to raise the bar too much, but this is a real live comedy person. And as Susan said, there are also stakes involved, which actually makes for the best comedy. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about when you realized you were a funny person and what being a funny person means in Saudi Arabia?
Okay. My original background was engineering. So I used to work for a factory, Procter & Gamble. We used to make diapers. I was a production manager, so at a period of time that there was a specific amount of diapers that I touched personally. That was a lot of fun. I really didn't, there wasn't a moment where we decided that, okay, I could do stand-up comedy. I was sure that me and my friends, we all agreed that I could not do stand-up comedy. And then we went for there was a session. I don't know if you know Ahmed as a stand-up comedian. He's a stand-up comedian here, and then he toured some Arabic countries. And when he was coming for an event in Jeddah, the city that I'm from, they did an audition, and I auditioned, and it actually worked out. So it was something that I did on the side on weekends after I do my diapers. And then later on, there was a group of people who wanted to do online entertainment. Basically, the concept that they had, they wanted to create a means of communicating with youth, since that 70% of Saudis are youth. And the best way to do it was online at the time, 2 years ago, because it was cheaper to enter, it was easier to experiment on. So they connected with me, and then we talked, and we came up with this concept, which is the show, Tyre.
So who works on the show? How many people? When did you first start it?
Okay, so we started 2 years ago, and the concept was a news satire show. I think you have a lot of those, like Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. The only difference that we could not talk about politics or religion or sex.
So it was a short show.
So it was, yes, very short. I would just come up and leave.
Yeah.
So it was really challenging, and there's a study that says actually when you have more restrictions, you actually become more creative. You create more, because now it's more challenging. It's not as easy as other places. So we started the show, as you said, it's short because online content has to be short, and we didn't have much to talk about. And then it was a bit social, and it was a bit political. So it wasn't hardcore politics. Honestly, because we don't have a lot of content back home. So we don't have a lot of interviews with decision makers. We don't have them give speeches and all that. So there isn't much to talk about.
So why don't we take a look? We're going to, so you can have an understanding of what it is, why don't we set up a clip?
Okay. Does it play here?
Yeah, I think it'll probably play here. Why don't you just tell us what we're about to look at?
Okay. The show generally has segments, and we are now at season 3. One of the challenges that we have, obviously, that there are things that you cannot talk about. But we want to talk about it. One, because it's really entertaining, and two, most of the audience, they want us to talk about it. And now you have to play it in a way that you don't do your final episode. So what we did, we created a character. There's an Arabic saying that says, if you say something that you shouldn't say, you go behind the sun. That's basically you don't see any sunlight anymore. I know it's different because you have a saying that says where the sun don't shine. It's very different. It's not the same thing. So basically this expression led us to create a character which is the sun. And whenever we want to say something that you cannot say, or it's too soon to say it today, we bring up the sun. So I guess if we play a clip now.
So let's take a look.
This is an introduction of every episode. It's basically riots by workers. So it's just, a comical thing that we did. Now this is me introducing the first season. Obviously the production is a lot cheaper quality than what you guys think.
الموسم الجديد في استوديو جديد وكمان توب لأومار جديد الساعة الثالثة يا فندق شفتوا الأنتن الجديد ايوه نبدا الموسم بفقره هل تعلم حتكون بدايه كل حلقه.
هل تعلم ان عدد المساجين بدون
قصده المساكين اللي ما عملوا سبسكرايب.
So basically here the kid starts he wants to say a piece of information about something that we can't really talk about. So when the sun comes up, I come in and I gag the kid and I say, no, he's talking about subscribers. Click subscribe, click subscribe. And the topic was about people who spend a lot of time in prison, so they spend more time in prison than they should. And it's a pretty sensitive topic that, you know, certain people don't appreciate us talking about. So putting it in a comical fashion was the first time that we could actually get up and say such a thing.
So you take this show to YouTube. How long before you're hearing from authorities about what they think of it?
Okay. Now we're about 3 years in the show, so 3 seasons. And the good news is that when we heard about authority, we actually got invitations. And this is really good progress. A lot of people did not expect that. A lot of people actually thought that I would be with the Sun character in a short period of time. We got invitations from 3 ministers and 1 mayor, basically inviting us to see what they're trying to do. And what happened, I'm not sure that we planned to do that, but we created a lot of influence in the social media scene. So all the youth now are actually talking more comfortably about what they like and what they don't like. And with Twitter and Facebook and all that, you can no longer control what the youth hear. So we got invitations from the government actually telling us, hey, look, this is our successes. You know, if you want to tell anybody about it, go ahead and do that. So they're not telling us what not to say. They're actually telling us, we're doing a good job. You know, if you ever feel like, you know, giving us a thumbs up, please do that. And so we heard in a positive note. And the tricky part is that you need to take it gradually. So we've been 3 years now. The second episode of the show, when it first started, we wanted to criticize a minister. We actually had the team to call him up and say, hey, you know, we're going to make a joke. Are you okay with it or not? And then he said, you know, sure, go ahead. Now, 3 seasons later, one of the episodes, we actually had a bunch of ministers as Pokemon. And we didn't need to get any approvals for that. But what happened is we're taking it step by step. And episode by episode, we can actually talk or discuss more interesting topics. Now, the risky area is that if you jump a big jump that you can't actually handle, and that's when, you know, that'll be your season finale.
So let's talk about that calculation a little bit, about trying to be funny, trying to reach your audience, which, by the way, is and on average about 1 million views per show, which I had to tell Omar is more than some NBC shows. It's a big number. Talk to us about when you are sitting with writers, what's the calculus? And give us an example of something that, for instance, you said, let's not do that.
Okay. I'm not going to give you an example. But our writing process goes in through, you know, 3 stages. First, we write really good content. And then we remove all the funny stuff because we can't talk about that. And then we shoot content, and then from that content, we remove just a little bit, and then we're out with an outcome that we think is something that wouldn't make it to TV. So we're still shy with our content. We're not as aggressive as we would like to be, because the funny content is the edgy content, but we can't be as edgy as we want to. The writing process is, you know, my wife is the lead writer, Lama. And so she's my boss everywhere, which is not good. But we don't, the question that we always face in Saudi, that people think that we actually have to get approvals from a certain number of people, but we don't. So we just write whatever we think is good content, and my mom does not get upset with it. One of the things that in our culture is not only politics, it's not only the government. So for example, after every episode, I get a 10-minute call from my mom telling me off because I would be criticizing elderly people. And now in our culture, you're not supposed to criticize the elderly, you're supposed to respect them. So it's not only about politics, sometimes about, you know, culture.
Culture, right. So how much fear is involved? I mean, we know that the Saudi regime is not as orthodox as some regimes, certainly in the Gulf and certainly in other places, but does that enter into your calculus as you're writing and thinking and performing?
Yeah, we're careful. We try to be calculated, but there is no specific law or system to go with, so it's really gut instinct, and that's pretty dangerous. But so far, I mean, 3 seasons, I think 40 episodes, and we're still going, so that's the only indicator that you're okay.
So tell me about your audience. And now you said that you do political without being political.
Okay.
From what I understand of Saudi Arabia, it's not actually a highly politicized youth. What do they want from you?
Our generation, they want a voice. They want someone to speak up and to discuss elements. And honestly speaking, since this whole thing started, because now it's an industry, there are many shows, some are political, some are comedy, and there is a positive reaction to this voice. So what we're doing, we're magnifying or reflecting what society is discussing. So if something that everyone is talking about, but not everyone in the media. So it's not on TV, maybe. Maybe some newspapers are touching on it, but everyone is talking about it, but not in the main channels. So what we do, we just magnify that in our show. And then when it has 1 million views and you get your 95% likes or 90% likes, it means people agree with you. They actually think, yeah, we agree with him. Now, I think this is actually doing the authorities a favor, because now they know, oh, okay, they want this. It makes their job, if they want to, a lot easier.
Do you read comments?
Yeah. Yeah. The Arabic comments are pretty much like the English comments. You know how you have like...
Well, it's the same one guy who comments on everything on the internet.
Yeah. It's always about Justin Bieber, right?
Yeah. So, but as you go through them, what generally are you getting? Is it the same sort of trolling, or is there stuff that's constructive?
Maybe if you go for Twitter or Facebook, so people who actually take the effort to find you and then message you, or Google+. I'm sorry, I should not have done that.
I don't think...
I should just move on, right?
No, from what I understand, the Google people are no more fearsome than the Saudi Arabian folks. You'll be okay.
When people contact us directly, they actually have good opinions, and they actually are being very constructive, and they have an opinion. When you're on YouTube, it's very, because you're anonymous, so people are more, they're YouTube comments. So, yeah.
So what about your audience outside of Saudi Arabia? YouTube is obviously a global phenomenon. What do you hear from people who were not your intended audience?
It was interesting that we have a good Arabic following. So for example, if you go for the Gulf region, it's really interesting. And what I was surprised to hear, because as we went, I visited a few Gulf countries, so there are 6 Gulf countries, if you didn't know. Because a lot of people think that Dubai is the Gulf. But so when I visited these countries, we found out that we have more freedom in Saudi than the other Gulf countries, except Kuwait, because Kuwait is politically active, and which was a surprise for us. And then some Gulf countries are trying to reapply the show. And then we have a small following from Libya, I'm not sure why. And that's pretty much it. And then some of the news that we cover is international. So we try to, we have a special segment, for example, for Palestine, which is a big Muslim Arabic issue. And we cover it every now and then. And so we get some Arabic following, but we're about 90% Saudi following. And that is actually a reflection of the YouTube consumption. Majority of the consumption is from Saudi Arabia.
Right. So what impact have you had on other people? Is there a culture of creation now? Is YouTube sort of the place where you want to go and speak or say something?
One of the accomplishments that I'm very happy that we officials no longer have this layer around them. So they're no longer holy. They're actually easy to criticize. People are very comfortable to speak up. Now, even on TV, people are criticizing officials very comfortably. And it really helps to progress, because if you're comfortable discussing an official's decision, that really helps because now you can have feedback to give. Where 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was this is the decision, this is what's going to happen. But now people actually they talk back, they express themselves on social media, starting with the show, and then we had other shows come up. And then now TV, to keep their ratings up, now they create shows that are actually as aggressive as we are. Of course, that what will stop the TV is their commercial interests, because you can't criticize specific entities due to commercial interests, while we're very poor and we don't have any commercial interests. So we just talk whatever we think is best.
So has TV approached you at all?
Yeah, and I'm here, so so I guess I didn't do any I didn't sign with any TV stations. The show itself as an identity is very it's very underdog. So we're very proud that some of the episodes we actually talk to our sponsors. So we have sponsors for the shows. So the last episode that we released, we called the sponsors up and we said, you know what? I don't think you can sponsor this. This is taking it to another level. And because this is what the show identity is about. Now TV, they have commercial interests, so they have called us up and we're interested in doing something with TV, but not this specific show, because this specific show has an identity that needs to be, it shouldn't have any relationships with any governmental officials or big business companies.
So when you had, can you tell me which sponsor you advised not to play ball and what the issue was?
The last episode, 0 sponsors. So because we wanted to go all the way. And so we didn't want the sponsors to think, oh, well, what did he just do? And one of the problems with this specific show that we have, because we have different shows within our media company, U-Turn, you should Google it. And they're okay with sponsorships because they're not as aggressive. Now our show, so all the local companies, they're they don't want to, and then it took us a while to get us a big time sponsor. So now we have a brand integration. Am I supposed to name companies or am I not allowed to? Okay, so we're doing a big deal with Unilever, which for us was it's a big deal.
It'd be a big deal for me too.
Oh, okay.
If you want to.
Yeah, hook you up.
Yeah.
Okay, you could do the clear thing.
That'd
okay.
be, yeah.
But again, we're doing a thing with BlackBerry as well. I'm really sorry for the Android people. And we did a really nice integration between BlackBerry and the show. Basically, people would, within the application, they would connect with us and give us news that we would talk about in the show. So in one episode, we called the BlackBerry people and we told them, hey, you know what? Not in this episode.
Right.
And they were okay with it. So it was interesting that the multinationals were okay sponsoring the show. And I think because they don't know what we're saying. Which is so far so good.
So you mentioned your mom earlier.
Yeah.
And 70% of Saudis are under 30.
Yeah.
You're heading up a cultural phenomenon. There's not just a sort of cultural divide, but there's a technology divide, I imagine. So what does this mean for Saudi Arabia 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out?
I think we will progress faster. Because if you take the history of media in Saudi, we were always behind. We always, it took us so much time, to get into newspapers, I think, and then radio, and then we're always behind. And there were, cultural reasons, maybe business reasons. I wasn't there at the time. When YouTube came up, when internet came up, we're actually just as fast as the rest of the world. So this means when your media is as fast as everyone else, we will progress, we will improve, we will change just as fast as the rest of the world. Now, that we create our own content is a good thing. It means we will progress and sustain whatever good culture that we have. So we don't need to be like anyone else. We will be whoever we are. I'm wearing a thobe. I was a bit concerned, coming on stage with a thobe. And then I saw all the questions about China, and I was like, that's really no longer, under focus. But us creating content just as fast as the rest of the world and consuming content just as fast as the rest of the world, I hope that we will improve just as fast and maybe faster. because we have so much to do. So since we grew exponentially in terms of views, I think improvement or change will be exponential, inshallah.
We've talked a lot about the production side. I imagine you're also a YouTube consumer.
Yep.
So what would we get to know about you based on what it is that you watch from other cultures?
Repeat that question, sorry.
So what are you watching? Katy Perry videos? What's on your sort of hit list?
I'm an engineer. I don't watch Katy Perry. but generally, we have enough content to consume locally.
Right.
Obviously, everyone did Gangnam Style. And then there was this new phenomena, which was the Harlem Shake. And I was happy that the Harlem Shake went viral in day 0, let's say. 2 days later, we had our own Harlem Shake editions. I mean, it's not a lot of intellectual progress, but it means we're seeing what's around the world, and then we're customizing to what we want. The content that I personally consume is our very own, because my company, it's not mine, but the company that I work in, has around 16 shows, and I watch them all because I need to get views, so I have to watch all of them, and I don't watch much of the Western content, but I know that the people around me, they really enjoy, for example, the takes from the Jon Stewart Show, The Daily Show. It's unfortunate that you only get to see little clips on YouTube. So,
I believe that would be Comedy Central's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about Comedy Central, right? Yeah, the small clips.
Yeah.
So cheap.
I know.
Why would you do that? But yeah, we consume content.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Omar, this is a great place to stop. Thank you so much. Thank you guys.